Hello, online family. Uh, I hope this video finds you well. I know, unfortunately, the reason that I'm doing the video assumes that it will not find everyone well. Last Friday, I came on and we talked a lot about an epidemic that we're seeing outside of the pandemic, which is a rise in suicide numbers. Um, I know for a fact in our area, I assume probably globally. Um, this last week, spent a lot of time researching and preparing and studying, and a lot of time spent with folks one on one who are struggling, who are having thoughts of taking their life, and it's never easy. I think as a culture, as a society, we run from what we don't understand, and it's easy to turn a blind eye. As I challenged many of you last week not to do that, to reach out to someone that you know is struggling with depression, possibly suicidal thoughts, probably in more cases than you're used to, probably in more cases than you would think. That I've struggled all week with who am I trying to reach with these videos? Is it those struggling with suicidal thoughts, or is it to the people who aren't, that I'm challenging to reach out to those who may be or are? And I come to this conclusion: it's both. I'm reaching out to both, uh, anyone who's having suicidal thoughts and those who aren't. And what I want the people who are not struggling with those thoughts right now to understand: you're just a bad day or two from having those thoughts. It can happen to any of us. It's happened to me. I shared that last week. I spent 2 years in a deep, deep, dark hole, where I wished for death. I prayed for death. Um, and the only reason that I couldn't do it was because there were several people in my life that refused to let me think that nobody cared. They loved me. They continued to reach out. They continued to push through my defenses so that there was no way that I could deny someone loved me and someone cared. Um, so I ask you now, those of you that did see the video last week, who reached out? And I'm not asking you to comment or tell me. I'm asking you to search your heart. Did you reach out to someone? Um, have you reconnected with somebody? Have you done a Zoom call? I mentioned the Zoom app. That's one of the main resources I'm using right now. Zoom, ZOOM, free app, unlimited person-to-person calls, 40-minute group call for free. Who reached out? Who's seen somebody's face this last week and said, I care about you. Um, and only I'm not asking for my benefit. I'm doing everything I can in this situation that we're in to reach those who are hurting, and for those of you who aren't, to reach those that are hurting. So, good man texted me this week and asked me, he said, why suicide? Why do you think that is? And it seemed to be a tougher question than I had expected, because I've been there. And but my first answer was a lack of hope. No hope, no light at the end of the tunnel. That was what it was for me. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. It was not getting better. Um, at the time, I was completely disabled, on my back, bedridden. And for those of you who know me now, I am no longer there. It was temporary. But in my life and where I was at, I was convinced that that was my permanent uh, situation, that it was never going to change. And as you can see, it did. Um, so I would say lack of hope. Right now in the isolation, with our social distancing, there's a lack of connection. That's another reason. Some people Rely on that connection, that face-to-face physical connection, to get some hope, to know that somebody cares. And that's where we've got to use these technologies that we have now to still get this face-to-face connection where somebody can say, I care. I said it last week, I care. Reach out, messenger, my phone number, 865-410-9079. Reach out, try me, I'll prove it, I care. If I knew you were hurting, I would have already reached out to you. I reached out to several this week, and several reached out to me. I met some new people this week that I'd never known before who were struggling with suicidal thoughts. I've also reconnected with a couple of old friends who, and many of you, if you commented on the video last week, seen it happen in the comments with an old friend whom I held a grudge against for many years. And I'm not perfect, never claimed to be. And that's one person that I had never reached out to and said, hey, you know what? I forgive you. I didn't hold the grudge against him any longer, but I never told him that. And he still carried that weight. And for that, I'm sorry. And you know who I'm talking to. Another old friend that I had not talked to in a very long time. We'd had a falling out. You know, there were some issues, and in this time, you really get to think about what's important and what really doesn't matter. And our relationships are important. The people that we love, that love us, are important. And some of the other things that we get so caught up in our daily grind are not nearly as important. Even in this time with the isolation, I see people get so wrapped up in their little world now. It used to be out in the world, and now it's in their own world. We've got to take time. There's nothing wrong with getting things checked off the honeydew list, or getting things checked off the list that have been bothering you for a long time. We should use this time wisely, but every day we should be setting aside some time for some relationships and for connections. Another reason that I think that suicide has become such an option is because people are feeling so out of control. They're out of control of their situation. And let's face it, there's a whole lot going on right now that we can't control. And the quicker you come to terms with that, the easier this is going to be. We may not be in control of the final destination, but we are in control of the steps we take to get there. And I'm going to give us a couple things here later in this video that will help us have a much smoother ride there to the other side of this. And those are great habits that we can carry on with us the rest of our life. Perspective is something that I want to talk about. So two people can see the same situation, same identical situation, two completely different ways. That's perspective. And we can look at this as a punishment. I've seen some funny jokes, being grounded and sent to a room, and things of that sort. But the truth is, we can also look at this as a blessing. Not that people are getting that people are suffering, that people are dying. Okay, I'm not making light of any of that. But social distancing, where we're isolated in our homes, we have time for these relationships. The relationships that I'm talking about that we never have time for. Okay, that we're so busy. We got to get these things done. We got to get the kids. We got to get to work. We got to get all these things that are going on in our lives that we just don't have time for relationships. Well, now you do. Maybe you can't go to the coffee shop and sit down and have a cup of coffee with an old friend or a family member, but you could dial up a Zoom call or a messenger video call, and you can sit down with a cup of coffee and you can talk. You can catch up. We can bridge these gaps with our relationship, and that is what's important. We were created to be relational creatures. That's fact. So I encourage you, again, I challenge you just like last week. Who are you reaching out to today? Who have you reconnected with today? Not tomorrow, not later next week. Today, tonight. It's always a little after 7. That's Eastern time. So if they're on the other end of the country, it's earlier than that. Reach out. Just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. How are you? You know, can we do a video call? Miss seeing your face. Some of the Zoom meetings that I've had this last week, and support groups and other things that I've been involved in, it's just been joyful to see people's faces. And hey, I'm an introvert by nature, okay? And some people may not believe that, but I am. I will. Isolation is one of my coping mechanisms, an unhealthy one at that. Okay. I never thought that I would miss seeing people's faces. I'm being real. Okay, I'm being honest with you. I didn't. I didn't think that I would. But over these past couple of years, as I've healed, as I've recovered from all the hate and the anger and the bitterness and all these things that were destroying me from the inside out, I really learned what love is all about. And I've met many people that do truly love me, and I miss seeing their face. So there's something powerful about this face to face. Another thing, so perspective, change your perspective. Okay, just look at it differently. This is not a punishment. This is an opportunity. Um, Acting based on your feelings. That's another one that gets us right there. Okay, acting based on your feelings. So I had a counselor one time, and most of you probably don't know, went through 7 years on and off of therapy and counseling. I think it's incredible to have somebody help you walk through trauma that you've been through in your life. But I had a great counselor one time tell me, he said, DJ, when you're making a decision, I don't care what the decision is, take a piece of paper, you draw a line right down the center. On one side, you write facts. You write all the facts about the situation. On the other side, you write your feelings about the situation. You rip that in half. You wad up the one that says feelings. You toss it out. You look at the facts, and you make a decision. Our feelings will get us in trouble, and our feelings are a direct indicator of our thoughts. Our thoughts produce our feelings, and our feelings produce our actions. Okay, so the action that we're talking about is suicide. That's based on an emotion. That's based on a thought. Okay, so those thoughts that we're having are causing these emotions, which are temporary, and then we're taking permanent action with suicide, and that's just it's not the right answer. So we've got to go backwards. All right, we've got to go backwards. We got to start dealing with those thoughts. All right. So, two things to deal with those thoughts. Okay. And this is not something that I read in a book. Okay. I have read a lot about it, but these are two things that I learned in my life. Hard knocks. Okay. The first one, bitterness completely consumed me. I mean, it controlled everything that I did. I was on a hair trigger for years. It didn't matter who you were. I didn't care. You didn't even have to be the one that upset me, but you might end up getting my wrath. It was pathetic. I was always mad. Everybody walked around on eggshells around me because they might say something that's seemingly innocent. I take it the wrong way, and a monster comes out. That's the truth. I'm not proud of it. I don't want to admit it. But I find by being vulnerable, people will trust you. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. But I had to deal with that bitterness. And what I found out, so many years of abusing drugs and alcohol to cope, right? And then I find sobriety, right? No more drugs and alcohol to cope. And then I learned what recovery is. It wasn't sobriety. It was dealing with the issues that took me to the drugs and alcohol to begin with. I didn't begin getting high to have a good time. I began getting high to survive, to cope with the trauma, the abuse that I had been through in my life. And I had to learn what forgiveness truly was. I tell this story from time to time when I talk about forgiveness, but riding down the road one day and I'm raging. I mean, screaming at the top of my lungs, out of control, bending the steering wheel. I'm so angry because of the man that sexually abused me, whom I had not had contact with in 15 years. 15 years had gone by. I had no contact with this man. And I'm still raging and screaming at the top of my lungs how much I hate him. And a buddy of mine in the passenger seat, when I finally took a breath, or run out of air, I guess probably more likely, said, "If you hate him so much, why do you give him control over you?" And let's say that did not go over well either. So then I just turned my anger at him, and I was furious. Why would you even say something like that? But then as I let it sink in, he was right. My bitterness, my lack of forgiveness for this man who had hurt me gave him control, gave him power. Hadn't seen him in 15 years. He still controlled me. So now I'm asking those listening, who are you giving control to? Who are you refusing to forgive that still controls your moves, still controls your mind, your emotions, which controls your actions? Who are you punishing around you because of something somebody did to you in the past? For me, my whole family. My whole family suffered because of what I was holding on to. I can't blame this on that man. Yeah, what he did was wrong, okay? It was wrong on every level. But we're talking 15 years later, no contact. And I'm just as angry as the days it happened. So I urge you, beg you, everyone listening, and most definitely if you're having these thoughts, who do you need to forgive? What do you need to let go? I heard it said one time, unforgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting somebody else to die. It doesn't work like that. If you're drinking the poison, you're the one it's killing. So let's let it go. Right here, right now, whatever it is, let it go. You say, oh, they don't deserve forgiveness. It doesn't matter what they deserve. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for your peace of mind. Forgiveness for my peace of mind. Without the forgiveness, I would never be able to reach out and help anybody. I would have completely destroyed my entire family, myself, everything. I was right there at it. I mean, right there at it, on the edge of destroying everything because of my bitterness. So let it go. It's time to forgive. Second thing I want to talk about, gratitude. Gratitude. You say, oh, well, it's a change in perspective. You say, well, I've got nothing to be grateful for. I beg to differ. Okay. It was an amazingly beautiful day today. 2 in a row. For those of you that live here in East Tennessee, those don't come easy. That's something to be grateful for right there alone. If you've got food to eat at all, that's something to be grateful for. If you got clothes on your back, that's something to be grateful for. It starts with the simple things. Every situation, there's good. You got to find it. And, you know, in the moment, there are things that happen to people. When I was being abused sexually, was that a good thing? No. But there were other things going on in my life I could be grateful for. And now, here, fast forward, 5 years worth of gratitude lists, I'm able to be thankful for the struggles. I'm able to be thankful for what happened in my past. I'm able to be thankful for what we're going through right now. I'm not thankful for those that are being hurt. Okay. I put human life at a very high price, high value. So don't think for a minute that I'm dismissing your pain, what you've been through, what you're going through. I can relate. I can relate to a lot of it. Neglect, abandonment, abuse. I get it. But there's good going on, and you got to search for it. Every morning I get up, the first thing I do when I open my eyes, 5 things I'm grateful for. And then every night when I lay my head on my pillow, 5 things I'm grateful for. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started this years ago, it was the same things. I had to work really hard. It started out with 2. That's all I could come up with. The same 2 for days. And then I could add another one. And then finally, it probably took weeks to get to 5 things I could be grateful for. And then it repeated to be the same 5 things for probably weeks longer. And to where now I can search every situation, think about my day from beginning to end, and I can pull things out that I never thought I could be grateful for. Never thought I could be grateful for. And what joy. What joy to be able to find things in the mud, in the muck, to be grateful about. So one other thing I wanted to mention today, and I've got so much, so many things we talked about last week briefly. Check out the video, but briefly, utilize technology, serve. You don't have to be great to serve, but you have to serve to be great. Serve. There's ways to do it. Still be safe. Take a walk, get some sun, and be creative. Find a way to have some fun, some art, some music, creativity. But last thing too is you got to limit your media consumption. Guilty. Got to limit it. I'm always searching for the truth, but you got to limit it because it will start manipulating and controlling your mind, and before you know it, you'll be so wrapped up in fear and panic that forgiveness and gratitude are so far back on the list you'll not find them. So I encourage you today, again, connect with somebody, get on these platforms and connect. Let's build relationships. Let's use this time for good. I want to list these numbers again. If you're having suicidal thoughts, you don't want to reach out to me. I already gave you my number in the beginning of the video. There's a national hotline, 1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text to 741-741. If you are thinking of killing yourself, if you have a plan, if you're ready to do something about it, you dial 911. If you're helping someone who says, I'm done, it's over, I'm doing it, dial 911. Do them a favor and dial 911. I've been there. I've been in the very situation, and I didn't want to break their trust. I didn't want to hurt them. But the fact is, they're still alive today. So sometimes we have to make tough decisions to protect human life. Don't be afraid to do that. We always err on the side of caution. All right. I guess I'm going to wrap it up. I'm probably going to continue this next week, probably next Friday night. Statistically, most people are feeling the most isolated on Friday nights. So let's do something about it tonight. Let's get to work. I love you all, and I thank you all for your time. Have a good night.